Hey, greetings, everyone. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West here, the Executive Director of the American Constitutional Rights Union. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Live Free TV, sponsored by the American Constitutional Rights Union. You know, there's so much going on. We've got the presidential debates or the Republicans happening, and of course, all the issues that we see going on at our border, with our economy, with our lack of energy security, our national security issues, and of course, our domestic security issues. And I thought there would be a great opportunity for us to talk with the chairman and CEO of the American Constitutional Rights Union, and that is Lori Roman. So, Lori, thanks so much for joining us today.
Hi, Ellen. Great to be on Live Free TV.
Yeah, well, this was a great concept, a great idea that we have out there because so often people, don't get the opportunity to go in and do a deep dive into a website or things of that nature. But I think that this is a great platform that we can keep them informed, engaged, educated, and activated on a lot of the current issues. So we probably have many people that are going to be watching maybe for the first time of this episode. So kind of give us a little bit of your background and also the background of the American Constitutional Rights Union. And what does it mean for you to be the chairman CEO?
Well, thanks, Alan. It's always a privilege to work with you every day at American Constitutional Rights Union. And ACRU was founded many years ago by close advisors to Ronald Reagan, as you know, but informing our viewers. And one of those people was Attorney General Ed Meese from the Reagan administration, which many people recognize his name. And he was our founding board member and very thrilled that he is still on our board today. And then the other one was Robert Carlson, Bob Carlson, who was considered the father of modern welfare reform. And he was a close advisor to Ronald Reagan. And they started the ACRU to be a bit of a counterpart to ACLU and advocate for the Constitution and individual liberty. And that's still what we're all about today. And so almost 25 years later, we're going strong and making a difference in the country, and so happy. It's a privilege to work to advance liberty every single day. And my background has always been as an advocate for liberty for the most part, but I started in business, ended up in the nonprofit world and government, worked in George W. Bush's administration as the director of school choice and deputy director of the White House faith-based office at the U.S. Department of Education. And then went on to be the head of ALEC, the American Legislative Exchange Council, and some other positions. But it is a true privilege to work with you at ACRU and advance liberty every day. And we hope folks will join ACRU as members and check us out at theacru.org.
Now, when you think about you coming in as the first president and now the chairman CEO of the ACRU, what was your vision? What would you want to do as you came into this leadership role for this organization that, as you just articulated, was established to be the counterbalance to the American Civil Liberties Union, which really focuses on leftist ideological rights? They've kind of gotten away from constitutional rights, without a doubt.
Well, American Constitutional Rights Union used to be called American Civil Rights Union, as you know. And one of the first things I did when I came in is I changed the name to American Constitutional Rights Union because people were getting us confused with the ACLU. And sometimes I had to spend a lot of time explaining that we weren't on the left, we were on the right. And so we changed the name to reflect our dedication to the Constitution. And so that was one of the first changes I made. And the other thing that we've done is made sure that we were concentrating on something that I always learned in the business world. I started out many years ago in the business world, and I have a master's degree in business, and that is you're supposed to find a need and fill it. And so I have taken that approach also to nonprofit world. And that's what we do at ACRU. We look around the conservative movement, the cause for liberty, the cause to save the country. And we find needs and we fill them. And that has led to three really important projects, as you know. So the first one that we started that was really meeting an unmet need was the Center for Vulnerable Voters. That is protecting voters, especially those in nursing homes that have often been the victim of fraud or suppression, not having their votes counted or having people vote for them if they were incapacitated in some way. So that was the first thing that I launched, was the Center for Vulnerable Voters, and people can go to that at centerforvulnerableVoters.org. And we are the leaders in this. No one had ever sought to protect their rights, and we do it all over the country. We use legal means. We have our legal team draft letters to nursing homes. We do training. We have a national training coordinator that trains nursing homes, and it's not just nursing homes, it's assisted living, group homes, and also protecting military voters, as you know. And that was the first project near and dear to my heart, in let's find a true need and let's fill it. And then you were the huge part of the second big project that we launched, which was filling the need of a constitutional conservative veterans organization. So when you came on and championed that, we birthed then the Committee to Support and Defend. And people can go to that at supportanddefend.org. That was the next one. And that's going strong under your leadership. And then the one where the newest project, which is Live Free Local. And that is about engaging and empowering people at the local level to take actions and not just wait for people in Washington who don't always listen to us in the grassroots, but take charge of things at home, at the school board level, the county commissioner level, the city council level, and sometimes at the state legislature. And that is a cause near and dear to all of our hearts at the ACRU.
Well, let's unpack those three things. First, let's talk about the Center for Vulnerable Voters, because I'll be heading up there to Wisconsin next week. And we really were awakened to how big of an issue this was because of an investigation that came out of the state of Wisconsin with relation to what was going on in our senior living facilities and some of our memory care facilities. Can you please share that with the audience?
Sure. Well, we started the Center for Vulnerable Voters. We conceptualized it in 2019. We launched it in 2020. We were very active in the 2020 election season, educating and training and informing on this issue and providing legal counsel where necessary to nursing homes and so forth. We saw the problem because we had initially launched our ACRU vote fraud hotline in 2020. And we started getting very serious and alarming complaints about vote fraud, vote suppression, and especially people filling out ballots or ballot requests for people in nursing homes or in group homes or in assisted living. And so we knew the problem was, as we anticipated, big and real and broad all the way across the country. So we were really pleased to see after the 2020 election that the Wisconsin legislature commissioned a study through a special counsel to look into some complaints of some vote fraud that happened in Racine, Wisconsin, where nonverbal dementia patients were having their ballots filled out. And the sheriff's department there launched an investigation and found that it appeared to be a real problem. Nonverbal dementia patients had casted ballots. We knew that at ACRU already because of our vote fraud hotline. We had already assisted a family in Lubbock, Texas, whose mother had, quote, voted, but she was a nonverbal dementia patient, and she had, quote, voted in the election. And they were able to ascertain that through state election website that mom had voted. And so we were really happy to see the follow-up in Wisconsin. But what we see in Wisconsin was across the state, big problems. The investigation that the special counsel carried out really cemented, but I think was alarming in how widespread it was in the state. And in fact, in a few counties in Wisconsin, they showed 100% voter participation in their nursing homes. So that means in 3 counties in Wisconsin, every single nursing home had every single person vote, which we know is statistically impossible when you have incapacitated people in nursing homes. And so that was really the first big investigation that proved that what we had been saying was really true.
Now, let's talk about our second initiative that has come about, the Committee to Support and Defend, because those are the words that come out of the oath that we take in the United States military, and to include the elected officials. Sometimes they don't follow up on that oath. But we saw that there was a lack of a principled constitutional conservative veterans organization or group out there that did hold on to those values of the Constitution and continue to advocate for them for the military. And without a doubt, we have seen some challenges for our military like we've never seen before, especially with the COVID shot issue and the violation of their rights there. But also, we have seen a lot of our military that are struggling right now. I find it appalling that we are sending billions of dollars to Ukraine, or we're spending billions of dollars on illegal immigrants, but yet we have our young members of the United States military that are, living out there and being told to go on food stamps. Tell us about the assistance program, the gift card program that has been started there by the Committee to Support and Defend.
Well, one of the things I love most about Community Support and Defend is the number of veterans who are involved who say things like, tell us what we can do to help. We want to continue to serve the country. And just their willingness to stay engaged and work to continue to save the country. So I love that about Community Support and Defend, that whole attitude of continuing to serve, an attitude that you exemplify every day. And I know the veterans absolutely love you because of that. And I have seen them thank you for your continued service. And that's always touching to me when I see that. What was borne out by, I think, two things that happened. One, the food stamp comment that came from the upper echelon of our government, saying that the service members should just go on food stamps rather than get paid what most people would consider a living wage. The left loves to say living wage, right? But they don't like to hear about it when it has to do with the military. That comment horrified all of us, and ACRU took action. So we kind of spawned at that point this assistance for our veterans. And the other thing that started that whole thing was a hurricane. So it was a hurricane, not Ian, Irma, Hurricane Irma, and then Ian, where we saw veterans in need, and we saw National Guard who were even working the hurricane, even working after the hurricane, who had their own houses damaged or their own spouses lost their work because their place of work was destroyed in the state of Florida. And so those two things really showed us the importance of not just mobilizing veterans and not just empowering them and educating them, but caring for them. And so that's where we started jumping in and making sure we gave gas cards, grocery cards to our veterans, and being a resource for them to reach out to us if they needed help. In the case of Florida, we had one 75-year-old Vietnam veteran who had lost everything. He lost the rental that he lived in, and we helped him. We helped him get furniture to get situated in his new home, and so many others, giving them gift cards. And then you did that great event in Texas on Memorial Day, where we even had tables set up for active duty military, where we had that was during the formula shortage. So we had formula and we had diapers, and so. So I see two sides to Community Support and Defend, and I'm excited about both of them. One is mobilizing veterans to continue to support and defend the Constitution, as I know they love to do, and two, caring for those that need care. And I think this is a perfect example of finding a need and filling it.
And there also is a synergy between the Center for Vulnerable Voters and also with our veterans and our military, because one of the things that I saw when I was on the Armed Services Committee and I was on the subcommittee on personnel, we have some issues with our military voting processes and procedures and the system overall. And we have somewhat forced our young soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Coast Guardsmen, guardians of the Space Force. They are somewhat vulnerable voters as well. Can you expound upon that?
Well, if you look at the government's own statistics, you see that the military voting rates are very low, alarmingly low, and a lot of that comes from their absentee ballots not being processed properly at the front end or the back end. So oftentimes election officials don't get the ballots out in time to get them to the members of the military so that they can return them in time to be counted. The government knows this is a problem, but the government really doesn't do much about it. So one of the things we do is try to inform and educate, and we put deadlines out there for people to understand what the deadlines are for returning them. But we're also putting pressure on election supervisors and election workers around the country to get them out on time. The other thing is when we train poll workers, which is one of the things we do at ACRU, we train them to recognize military ballots when they come in and treat them properly. Don't throw them in a provisional pile. Um, Sometimes they don't get adequate training at the local level and they don't process them properly, and the military ballots don't get handled the way they should. So we're trying to educate on both ends, on the end of the voter and also the people who are processing or observing the votes, and it's a big problem.
You know, it's amazing to me that we don't take better care of our service members and that right that they have to vote. And because they provide us the privilege and the honor and the ability to be able to go out and vote for in this representative democracy as part of our constitutional republic. And we just saw the governor of Pennsylvania just kind of, slap people in the face by saying we're going to have automatic voter registration at a time when you have 6-7 million illegals in the country, and driver's license going to illegals, which means they can have a photo ID which could lend to them being able to vote. And of course, these unsolicited mail-in ballots, which is something that came out of the COVID, instead of us really focusing on the ability of getting out those absentee ballots to our deployed military service men and women so that they can get them back. Let's talk about the last big initiative, and that's the Live Free Local. I've always said that the most important elected position in the country is school board. I think that now we're starting to understand that after what Terry McAuliffe said during his gubernatorial debate in Virginia, that parents don't have the right to decide what their children are being taught. But there's so many other things. And again, I think it ties into all that is happening with the ACRU, because counties are the level at which you see election processes and procedures that are established. So if we want to do the right thing as far as protecting vulnerable voters, you got to have a good, strong county commission, supervisor elections down there. If you want to make sure that you're getting those absentee ballots out at the right time, it is, that responsibility down there at the county level. So how important is it that we do, as constitutional conservatives, the conservative movement, if you want to put it that way, focus on city council, school boards, and county commissions, and also sheriff's races? Constitutional sheriffs is so important.
Well, in a day and age where a lot of the grassroots, and myself included, get very discouraged with Washington, and sometimes feel like our voices are heard. And I understand that frustration. Sometimes it feels very far away. Um, it's more important than ever that we realize that we can have impact at the local level, and it's so much easier sometimes to have impact at the local level. And Live Free Local, which people can go to at livefreelocal.org, which is the project that we're talking about here, was completely designed to energize and empower and engage the grassroots in changing in changing things right at their own local level, advancing liberty at their own level. And with county commissioners, city council, sometimes state legislators, school board, and we have a variety of topics there. So there are, at livefreelocal.org, there are ordinances, bills, and resolutions for local and state level on a variety of topics: protecting children, health freedom, election integrity. We're about to add a new one in the next few days, which will be about protecting girls' sports, healthcare freedom, and stopping federal overreach. And so that you can go right to the website and you can look at all of these things, and you can take the ordinance or the bill or the resolution and take it to your county. in a subject that relates near and dear to your heart, something that you're passionate about. And then folks can just go and advocate. They can contact us for help if they need it. And I'm sure that just about everyone will find something in there that is something that they're passionate about. And one of the things I'm most passionate about is the parental rights and protecting children. Things that are in there are really important. There's something in there about protecting vulnerable voters at the local level. Um, I'm excited next week that we're going to have something in there to protect girls' sports locally. So there are a lot of cultural issues that are really hitting families hard and right at home. And I feel oftentimes that the Washington folks are very far removed from it and don't understand. But as we're out and about, we talk to a lot of families who have really been affected by infringing on parental rights and not protecting children and very inappropriate public displays that are done in children's parks and things like that. One of the bills that really upset me was that got us going was it's Yulia's law, and that was a case where a little girl had been kicked off of a transplant list because she didn't have a COVID vaccination. That happens to be a state law that we're advocating for, but no child should be discriminated against because of their vaccine status. And no hospital system should ever tell someone they should go home to effectively die because they didn't take the COVID vaccination. So, individual liberty and some cultural issues that Washington forgets are kind of the core of Live Free Local.
You know, it's interesting because even though he was a Democrat, the Speaker of the House, Tip O'Neill, once said all politics are local. And you've already had a success. We've already had a success at the ACRU in Collier County, Florida, with the Live Free Local. Can you expound upon that for us?
Well, the win in Collier County is exactly how you would hope a win should happen at the county level. So this was grassroots driven. And they passed a Bill of Rights sanctuary county ordinance. And in the shortest of terms, it's a proclamation at the county level that says our county officials, the people in our county or the employees in our county will not be made to enforce any federal law or federal action that infringes on the rights of our citizens as outlined in the Bill of Rights. And so this was percolating for a long time at the county level. It didn't pass at first a particular version of it. I'm very proud of Christina Heuser, the attorney who worked on this. She's one of our legal advisors at the ACRU. So Christina did exactly what we would hope will work in doing this all across the country, which is it's grassroots motivated. The grassroots wanted it. The grassroots pushed it. Christina offered her legal expertise, drafted the resolution, and then it got passed. And in fact, Christina drafted or adapted most of the things that are on our livefreelocal.org site. But that's the point. The point isn't that ACRU comes into a county or a city and does it. The greater point is that ACRU can give some advice or provide some product, as you might call it, which is some model legislation or resolutions, and the grassroots does it. So ACRU is not running in there saying, "Oh, look at what we did." That's not really the point. The point is that it's the grassroots being empowered to do these things, and we're hoping to see it all across the country. In the case of Collier County, it had kind of gotten started quite a long time ago, and really happy that our ACRU attorney was able to provide the legal counsel on that.
Yeah, ACRU acts more so as what we would say in the military, a combat multiplier and an enabler for the grassroots and down at that local level for them to have the success. They don't have to try to create something from ground zero, and we walk with them through this entire process. You know, last thing that I want to discuss with you, as stated, be heading up to Wisconsin on behalf of the ACRU next week. And very disturbingly, we see this potential introduction of ranked choice voting there in the state of Wisconsin. Now, here in the state of Wisconsin, we have a majority of Republican in the state house and state senate. And it's very disconcerting because ACRU has kind of been at the tip of the spear, talking about some of the pitfalls and the concerns of ranked choice voting. What are some of the things that you would like to alert everyone to as far as ranked choice voting? And we have a great one pager that I know we sent out last week, and hopefully we can continue to send that out. Because again, it's about informing, educating, and activating people. So, what are your concerns with ranked choice voting? We've seen it be enacted in Alaska and Maine, and it's going so well in Alaska. They're trying to, get it back and eradicate it. So, what are your concerns there, Lori?
Well, it's a threat all across the country, and in particular, some of the states where citizens should be really alert and starting to take some action would be Arizona, Nevada, Ohio, Wisconsin, Georgia, and Texas, and there are others brewing, but those are the hot ones right now. Ranked choice voting, first people should know that it's really being pushed by the left, although that they are hiring some Republican consultants to try to make it look pretty bipartisan. It is really a leftist agenda by the same people who are trying to get rid of the Electoral College. And so the first thing people should know is it's a push by the left. The second thing you should know, and Alaska is a very, very conservative state. It's a Republican state, has been forever. And that is how Alaska ended up with a Democrat, Democrat representative. So that is why the left likes this so much. It is very confusing. Ranked choice voting is where it is not just you go in and vote for the candidate you want, but you have to rank all the candidates. It's very easy to have your vote tossed out if you don't do it properly. It's a very confusing way to vote. It causes a lot of spoiled ballots and discarded ballots. If you think it's hard for election officials to count votes now, just wait until you try getting them to count ranked choice voting ballots. It's a mess. It takes a long time. It's very complicated, and it's almost impossible to audit and to do a recount. So what does that mean? Well, that means it makes it really hard to detect fraud when it happens. And so these are all very bad things, complicated for the voter, especially for vulnerable voters and older voters who are going to have a hard time adjusting to this. And I assume will probably vote the old way and get their ballots tossed out. So it's complicated for everyone, but I think that's the point. I think that's what the left wants. I think they want it to be complicated and difficult to ascertain whether fraud happened.
I hear people that are advocates of ranked choice voting saying that this is to bring down the temperature of partisanship and all of these different things. But what you just articulated is absolutely the point. If you go in and you rank these candidates, the thing is that the candidates drop off, based upon the amount of vote percentage that they got or the rank choice that they got. But the next thing you know, there's somebody else making the arbitrary decision about who gets the remaining votes or support of those people that were dropped off. You don't get to make that decision. So you don't get to come back. And what I've tried to get people to understand, ranked choice voting is kind of like filling out a March Madness, the NCAA basketball tournament, 64 chart. I mean, you're just throwing, names out there, who's going to win here, who's going to win there. And then you have nothing else that you can do to impact how that ends up. And I think we've already seen a couple of cases of lawsuits as far as ranked choice voting have been used, where people come back and said, that's not how I wanted my vote to go and how I want it to be counted. Am I correct?
Right. And I talked to a senior citizen voter not long ago, and she put it really in perspective for me. And she said, so let me understand. So if on the ballot I have George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and Adolf Hitler, I have to rank them. And she said, so if I put Washington first and Jefferson second and Hitler third, I'm forced to put that three next to Hitler. I can't leave it off. And I said, no, you can't leave it off. Your ballot could be discarded. And she said, so if Jefferson and Washington get knocked out in the first two rounds, I've effectively voted for Adolf Hitler. And I said, I hadn't really thought about it that way, but I guess so.
Well, it's amazing how our seniors can cut to the point and cut to the chase and put things in such simplistic terms for us to understand. Last thing, how can people support the incredible work of the ACRU? And I often kind of equate us to like a special forces A team. We're not a whole bunch of people, not a bunch of big infrastructure. We're just a small, very focused team that understands our primary and our alternate duties and responsibilities. And I think that you get a great return on investment when you invest and donate to the American Constitutional Rights Union. What would be your pitch as to why people should support the American Constitutional Rights Union?
Well, I think you described it perfectly. We are nimble and quick and not bureaucratic. And as one of our board members, Ken Blackwell, always says, we punch above our weight. And so we would appreciate donations or membership. If folks want to go to theacru.org, they can donate or become a member. Membership is $17.76 a year, so it's not very expensive, and or just donate to the cause. And then specifically, they can also join Committee to Support and Defend if they're a veteran who would like to do that. And that's $17.75 a year. And so to support these efforts a dollar with ACRU goes a long way. And especially go to Community Support and Defend, where we have committed that all of the $17.75 membership dues goes to care for veterans in need and for active duty military in need.
Can you talk real quickly about the partnership with the Association for Mature American Citizens, AMAC?
Yes, I would love to. Alan and I are both members of AMAC. I'm not going to fess up to being old enough to be considered a mature American
Oh, here we
citizen,
go.
but we are both members, and we have a great partnership with AMAC. We encourage everyone to become also a member of AMAC, which is also very inexpensive, and they do great work. And we partner together on behalf of Liberty. We'll be doing some events next year that we'll be announcing that we're doing together, but it's a great partnership, and especially in the area of protecting vulnerable voters and veterans, we're working together to advance liberty in Washington and all the way down to the local level.
Well, Lori Roman, the chairman and CEO of the American Constitutional Rights Union, my boss, thank you so very much for joining us on this episode of Live Free TV to let people get a real clear understanding of who you are, your vision, and understand your type of leadership of the ACRU and why it's so important to support us and what we're doing here. So God bless you and thank you. And God bless you all for joining us on this episode of Live Free TV.